Welcome to the Erasmus Foundation podcast. My name is Paul Nugent. Are you looking for answers to life and its meaning? Then this may well be the very podcast you need to listen to. In a series of podcasts, we are going to look at the difficult questions of life and apply spiritual knowledge to find out the answers. Hello. Today we're going to talk on a subject, spiritual awakening in the 21st century. And with me today, we have Padina from Spirit, who's going to talk on the subject. Greetings, Padina.
Greetings to you.
So, Padina,
Yes.
start off at the beginning.
Mhm.
What is spiritual awakening?
Well, it might seem a little odd to say this for some people, but this, in a way, is a reawakening from a long slumber that man has enjoyed for a very long time. When before this time, many, many thousands of years ago, there was a much wider acceptance and understanding of spirit, where man comes from, where he returns to his spiritual home after finishing with the life on earth. So this awakening is just something which is happening almost like a dawning after a night of sleep, when everything might seem fresh and anew, when in reality, man is just being reminded of his true heritage, and perhaps opening up the memories held in his mind, which would reveal to him all that he has known in many, many long years in spirit and living life in other lives on the earth, and perhaps elsewhere as well.
Thank you, Padina. So the question I'm going to ask you now is, why is it happening now, then, would you say?
It is happening at this time because your world is coming into an age of maturity. It is maturing as the people living on this earth are maturing spirits, older spirits, coming here as always to learn lessons of life, but at an age of maturity, more so than perhaps in the past. And it is fitting, therefore, that in the fifth civilization, which is this one you are living in, when there is a great deal of evil within your world, there is a great deal of destruction, there is a big need for man to find himself and find again the spiritual part of him, and indeed the great universe of spirit which is out there waiting for man to reawaken and come into sanity and clarity to see and understand all that there is.
So, Padina, how will this change the world, do you think?
Well, the world has to change. It must do. Your world is very sick at this moment. It is terminally ill, and it will not survive if man is allowed to continue in his behavior, the activities of poisoning and polluting his world. It is therefore considered and designed by the great mind of the universe that this time he should awaken to spiritual understanding more and more for the benefit of bringing his world back into health and sanity. So this is why it is happening. It is an essential for this world to survive. It cannot survive without the understanding and the knowledge of spirit. It will not.
We are told, Padina, that this time is the most evil that the planet has ever seen.
It is.
And are we going to see the end of evil now once this awakening spreads more?
No, evil will always be there. It is all part of the natural law. But most importantly, man will be learning how to recognize evil, how to deal with evil, how to control it. And this is so important. So man will maintain control over evil, so it will not be allowed to develop and spread in strength across your world as it does at present. And how will he do this? And the most important factor in all of this is recognizing the value of truth. So important. Because where there is falsehood, there is no trust. Where there is no trust, there is conflict. And evil hides behind many things. And particularly, it wears a mask that man must learn to recognize, see through, and acknowledge what is behind the mask by understanding it. And this is the program for this time of your world. How your world is tapestried in this way, that man, over perhaps hundreds of years, as it has been so far, to learn how those who work in evil have demonstrated their will, their designs, their practice, and how evil has been used in a way to manipulate people and control your world in power, where man must learn to find his strength to overcome the power of evil. And this is what is to happen and will develop over your near future.
Thank you, Padina. Does this mean that we're going to get a new religion on this planet?
No, I think your world has had sufficient religions, and it has given man much, even though man has, in some cases, made bad use of religions in attempting to find power by this means, by using religions, which is sad. But there has been great gains and benefits from the religions your world has been given. Yes, but now is the time, during this age of spiritual awakening, that religions may be left behind. And very simply, man will come to know the meaning of the natural law and what is spirit and his spiritual heritage.
So, Bettina, is this new way of thinking going to be believed and accepted by everybody?
Not perhaps everyone, no. And it may only be offered to everyone who wishes to accept it. But of course, it is in the nature of spirit and of course the great mind that nothing is forced on anyone, and no one should be forced to believe in what they do not, or which they find difficult to accept. That is acceptable. That is the way of life, and must be. So, yes, for many, the world will go forward with a greater understanding, and where knowledge and wisdom and development of technologies which will be associated or perhaps given through spirit, then so much will be appreciated and understood.
Thank you, Bettina. So we know that history tends to repeat itself. We've discussed that with another spirit earlier on in these podcasts. So has all this happened before? Was there awakening at another time previously?
Not so much an awakening as it was always there within the beginnings of each civilization. The knowledge, the understanding was there. And the people, let us say, had one foot on the earth and another in spirit. And they would commune with their spiritual home. So they had that knowledge, they had that understanding. It is only through the development of mankind in his physical form, whereby his brain has developed, has grown, has evolved, and in doing so, it has impeded and overshadowed the freedom, the clarity of the mind, your spiritual self. And the consequence of that is, of course, man has lost touch with his spiritual home. So it has therefore needed to happen that man, having lost himself into his physical, materialistic body, now he must reawaken the knowledge and understanding and come back into communication with his spiritual home.
That all sounds fantastic. It's going to take some time, though, I guess, Bedina, is it?
It will, of course,
Yeah.
but then time is only a matter of the earth
Yes.
and people. Time to spirit is now. It is ongoing. It never ends. It is eternal. So it has no real meaning in spirit, because whatever time anything may take is simply the course of the way things work, which is acceptable, and one should, in a way, not really question it. It just is. So all time is now to spirit.
Indeed. So, how will this show itself in people, Bedina? How will the awakening first start? Well, it's already started in 1980, hasn't it?
Yes.
How will it represent itself in people's behaviours to begin with?
In many, many ways. And it is already happening that people are awakening to so many things, to things of the natural law, things of nature, which mankind is making more attention to, focusing on nature. He must return to more natural things, both in his form of medicine and spiritual healing. He must stop using the pollutants and the poisonings in his methods of farming. He is to understand and learn, appreciate how this coronavirus has come into being through the activities of man. There is so much for man to learn, so much for man to realize. And in doing so, the more he learns, he will find also that his history of his planet will need to be revised in his understanding and appreciation of what has happened in the past, which has a history far, far longer in time than mankind presently recognizes. All of that, as well as development in technologies, in advancement in medical practice, advancement in revolutionary ways of teaching children, which is so, so important for the future. That is to change very, very radically and is necessary. For at this time, even your children are suffering from forms of mental disease and imbalance, which should not be occurring at all. So that is just a little of how your world is to change and to evolve, going into the sixth civilization, which is not so far ahead of you now.
Thank you, Bedina. Well, I think we've come to the end of the podcast for the day. So, is there anything else you'd like to talk about before we close?
No, only just to say this time of your world is a difficult time for many. And you only have to look at what is happening around you to see this. But I want to add that the future of your world is very, very bright and colorful, very positive. And man must endure what is happening at this time to enable him to go forward into the new world of light, peace, and truth. That is the age of spiritual awakening that is unfolding at this time. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
My pleasure, Padrino. Thank you so much. Thank you. The Erasmus Foundation is a spiritual teaching and healing foundation based in Laxfield, Suffolk, in the United Kingdom. We have a webpage, www.erasmus-foundation.org. If you would like to be a guest on our podcast, or indeed have further questions for us, then please contact me on paul@erasmus-foundation.org, and we'll do our best to accommodate you. Thank you very much for listening.